And welcome to another edition of South Texas Crossfire. This is attorney Joe Flores inviting you guys to join us each and every week right here on KTMB with the Lopez family. Special thanks to Don Humberto Lozano Lopez. He passed away in 2011, but he's never forgotten. He's honored, he's venerated by his family. And I want to thank my good friend Carlos Lopez for giving me the opportunity to come out and bring out very, very strong political leaders who are making a difference in our community, and our greatest sponsor, God. Without him, nothing is possible. I have the pleasure of bringing on a county commissioner and a political candidate that's running for re-election. He's seeking your vote, but it's something more. We're going to be talking about his service in the community for a long time. We're going to be talking about what he's done for the community and for his church and for God. So I want to bring on Commissioner Joe McComb. How are you?
Fine. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you. You know, I've been trying to recruit you and get you on, but I know some Republicans will say, now, wait a minute, this is a Democratic enclave, you know. Like Tim McCoy, who's running, said, well, I'm going to go interview with you first, go into the belly of the beast. But we want to let everybody know that this is actually Hispanics are pretty conservative people when you look at our culture. And so we're talking about the county commissioner race. But
Right.
Before we jump in there feet first, can you tell everybody out there your education, training, background, where you grew up, your family, all that good stuff?
Well, I was born right here in Corpus Christi in Memorial Hospital, and I went to Windsor Park Elementary School, went to Montclair Elementary School, and then went to Cullen Junior High School. That was when it was junior highs, not middle schools. And then I graduated from W.B. Ray High School in 1965. Went a year to Del Mar College, and then went way off to East Texas into Nacogdoches to go to Stephen F. Austin State University.
Great university out there.
Oh, it's a great place. It was kind of a culture shock to me. I'm used to palm trees and open spaces, and you go up there in East Texas and you got the big tall pine trees, and you can't see very far because the forest is all around you, but it's beautiful, and it's a great place. And we had a wonderful time. Met my wife up there. She was from Dallas, and she came to Stephen F. Austin, and met her, brought her back here. She was a school teacher. My mother was a school teacher. Mary taught school for a few years, then we started our family. We now have, we've got 5 children and 8 grandchildren.
Wow.
And the youngest arrived grandchildren came in August of last year, twins. My daughter, who is a twin, had twins, and so we're real excited about that. And then hopefully when this election is over, we're going to go up and see them. They live in Stafford, Virginia, right outside of Washington, D.C. My son-in-law is a captain in the Marine Corps, a helicopter pilot, and he's in Stafford, and we're going to go up and try to see those little twins before they get too big.
Well, and you know, we bring on people, and we want to hear about their family and their community involvement. Can you tell people what is your passion in the community and serving? As far as in the church, you're quite active, and
Right.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I'm a member of First Baptist Church and have been all my life. Was active in the youth group while growing up in the church. I'm a deacon at the church, and there's 5 of us that teach Sunday school on a rotation basis. I mean, that way you don't have the same teacher every Sunday, but you get a kind of a different flavor about once every 5 or 6 weeks, and so I'm on a rotation there in one of our adult Sunday school classes, and then we obviously support the youth group as much as we can, because I think, you know, if you train up a child in the way they should go, and when they get old they don't depart. You know, you do your best and leave the rest to God. That's about all I know to do about kids, but we've tried to do our best with our kids and make opportunities available for other kids to get some good solid foundation training through the church and through the activity, the youth group. And Chris Skoglin is our youth minister now and doing a great job for us. And we'd invite the young people to come down. We got it's not all just Bible study, which is very important in the main function, but I mean, we've got upward basketball leagues for the little kids on up. We got all kinds of activities for the young people, and they seem to have a good time.
Well, it does my heart good too when I see the fall carnivals y'all have. Then I go there myself for Corpus Christi Concert Ballet for the Guild. The Photography's Guild has it up there, their organization. Y'all have some nice rooms to meet. And when I do go, I do see whether you're Baptist, Catholic, Jewish, there are people that get involved in the basketball leagues, and that's the way it should be.
It's a great ministry. It's great outreach, and it does appeal to the community. With the recreation center really is kind of the heartbeat during the week. I mean, there's all kinds of activities from senior adult groups to youth groups to everybody coming in playing basketball. We got a little cafe in there that you can come in. A lot of folks from downtown. It's close, just straight down Santa Fe or Ocean Drive from downtown. They go in there and get a good meal. It's very fairly priced, and they can get back to work, and so it's a real outreach. And we got a wonderful school there, the First Baptist Church School, and got a great staff, and so it's I think it's just a good operating facility down there for the community.
Well, and the community involvement that you've been in also has not just been the church. I know that you're very active in the community, not in outreach in other ways. Can you tell our audience a little bit about that?
Well, I mean, of course, we get involved with, not to a great extent into a lot of civic organizations and supporting different charities and things, but probably the most rewarding thing that I've been able to do, and probably had the biggest impact. I had a wild and crazy idea one time that we ought to go out and try to paint some houses for low-income, elderly, and disabled folks that really just they'd paid for the house. It was their home, but because of circumstances, health and age and economy, they just couldn't maintain the painting and trying to preserve their investment through their lives. And so this was when I was on the city council. We started an Operation Paintbrush, and we didn't take any tax money. And I went and talked to different businesses and civic organizations to get them involved, and said, here's a family over here that they've worked all their lives, they've paid for their house, but it needs to be painted, and they just, because they've got other needs for their money, medicines and groceries and utilities and everything else, they just really can't paint the house. And you extend the life of a house by maintaining it. And so as a result, one thing led to another, and we got a bunch of people on board, and we said, well, we'll do it for a year. We thought it was a great thing. We solicited civic groups, business organizations, the Corpus Christi Army Depot, everybody volunteering to do good for the community. And it was such a success that first year. We ended up with enough volunteers, and we had enough paint that was donated that we were able to paint about 100 houses on a weekend. And
100 houses?
Right. We had about 1,500 volunteers come out, and there was, you'd put 10 to 15 people on a house, and put 3 or 4 of them on a side and get up early in the morning, scrape and clean up, and then paint, and you'd be done. We didn't do any repairs. It was all out exterior. Just put an exterior coat of paint just to do a little facelift on the house. And then people said, well, we're going to do it again and again. Well, the bottom line is we did it for 25 years. And there was no tax money involved. Everything we did was volunteer labor, private sector contributions, individual contributions. And it just was a great program. And unfortunately, we really had to stop it because the federal government came in with some regulations about lead-based paint, and they came out with new regulations. And a lot of these homes that we were painting obviously were older homes, and they said if the house was built before 1975, you had to run all these tests to determine if it had lead base, and then you had to look like you were fixing to do a moonwalk with all the equipment you had to put on. And if you couldn't power wash them anymore, you had to scrape it, and you had to put plastic all around the house. And so when you got through scraping, if you didn't get through in one day, well, you scrape, and then you got to pick up all the plastic and put all the paint chips in something else, and you had to have a certified person at the site all the time. And the regulations just got too cumbersome, and we were a nonprofit, not government funded, and we just said, they've hurt the very people they're trying to help, because now there's all those folks out there that can't get their house painted at no cost.
That's a perfect example of government at work.
Well, it's an unintended consequence, I think.
Yeah.
And
well, they mean well, but then you see these other people that suffer because of it.
And I don't know how much lead paint exposure. I guess if you started eating the walls with the paint on it, that might help. But if your house is painted with it and you're not down there sniffing it or eating it, I don't know what impact it has, but the federal government seemed to think it was going to kill everybody, and I don't know what effect it had. But bottom line was it killed that project.
Well, and so there's been some other things that you've started up, though, and besides the church and community involvement that you've been in. And I know that and we're going to talk a little bit about you serving on the city council. And also, we're going to take a break here in a minute or two, but can you tell us a little bit about your tenure on the city council? I know a lot of people remember you before you came on the county, your role in the city council.
Well, we did serve on the city council for 8 years, and I'm trying to think how many. We had a couple of different city managers. We had to go through the city manager selection process, but probably to me, the biggest decision that we had that has probably had the most positive long-term impact in the community, and I have to give Ed Martin credit for the one that really motivated the council to do this, is that we had gone through the drought, if you recall, and Choke Canyon had not been completed. There were no pipelines or anything. All we had was Lake Corpus Christi, and we were basically down to no water in the Lake Corpus Christi. As it turned out, fortunately, a little front came across Mexico, and it dropped water right in the right place to fill the watershed up in terms of Lake Corpus Christi. And in addition to that, Choke Canyon was not completed, but it was far enough along in the completion that it also captured a lot of that water. And so that got us out of that drought. But the thing that I think is probably had the biggest impact in Corpus Christi is that under Ed Martin's leadership, he convinced the council that we needed to go out and secure the water rights to the Garwood and the Lake Texana water supply. And so we bought it. We bought the rights, never knowing we'd ever build a pipeline or never knowing what we would need. He just said it would be a good thing to have in our toolbox of how we address water issues in the future, whether we sell that to somebody, sell those rights to somebody for water somewhere else, or whether we actually build a pipeline. But we just wanted to get the tools, and at first we all kind of scratched our head because it was an expensive purchase, but we did it. And as a result of that, later on, then when Mary Rhodes got to be mayor, they built the Mary Rhodes pipeline, and we've got the water that comes down from Lake Texana now. We've had a few, this last year, we've experienced, the drought conditions. That
has been so devastating for Texas.
And had we not had the Mary Rhodes pipeline that was a result of the fact that we purchased the water rights years ago that would give us the availability of that water, we would have been in desperate straits this last year with the water supply as it was, because Choke Canyon and Lake Corpus Christi both were very low. But as a result of that, yes, we cut back to, alternating water days and some of that, but we didn't see the severe restrictions that we could have seen if we didn't have that extra water supply. And so I think long term that was probably the biggest and most positive decision that we ever made on the city council.
Well, we're going to take a break, but when we come back, we're talking with Commissioner Joe McComb, and don't forget that early voting starts up here very quickly. We're going to be playing this program throughout February, but just to remind you all, the 18th through the 28th is early voting. If you haven't registered, please do so, and don't forget that you need a valid government ID. If not, then you get some ballot that may or may not be counted. So make sure all of you voting in the Republican primary to get out there, and the Democratic primary too. So we're going to take a brief break, and remember, your commissioner, Joe McComb, is here, and stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Have you been arrested or are potentially facing criminal charges? You need a trial attorney who is well versed in the courtroom. Joe Flores has handled hundreds of criminal cases and many of them to trial. Joe Flores can provide you with competent representation to protect your constitutional rights in state and federal court. Joe Flores can help if you have been arrested or facing criminal charges. The law offices of Joe Flores. Equal justice for all. Have you or a loved one suffered a stroke, heart attack, unexplained low blood pressure, or death during dialysis? The FDA has issued warnings and recalled the product GranuFlo and Naturalite used in dialysis. At least one national company failed to warn the public that over 900 people had suffered cardiac arrest or death. A condition called metabolic alkalosis developed, which may have caused the harm. Call the law offices of Joe Flores today. With a combined 25 years of experience in the medical field and as a trial lawyer, Joe Flores can help. Call now.
And we're back after a brief break. You're watching South Texas Crossfire. This is our 10th season. Me and Diamond Dave have been out here really getting out the shows, bringing on the candidates, and we are also migrating to a great show that's going to be led by a wonderful young woman. It's going to be called Equal Time. I want you all to know about Equal Time, that I'll be the first here to say it is going to be conservative based. It's going to have conservative guests, be they Democrat or Republican, but it's going to be exuding conservative values for our viewers. And we thought of an alternate show. You know, KTMB has always been thought of as the Democrat sort of show, blue. But now we're bringing on the red, and it's going to be called Equal Time, and we're very excited about it. But let's get back feet first into interviewing our commissioner, Joe McComb, who's running for your vote for re-election. Once again, welcome back.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Well, we were talking about water, and I just want to briefly recap there how important that the foresight that y'all had with Mr. Martin and the Mary Rhodes pipeline, that now water may be worth more than oil in some parts, correct?
Well, in some places it's a valuable commodity, and you know, we're just fortunate that we're there, and I think the ball is moving forward, that there's a lot of research being done for desalination, which I think is, I mean, we sit out here, we've got the Gulf of Mexico, we've got the Corpus Christi Bay, we've got a lot of brackish water, that I think the technology and the cost factor are coming closer and closer together, where it's going to be economical to use that as a water resource. And at some point, in whether it's going to be in my lifetime, but I think some place down the road, not too far, that one of these days you're going to see water, fresh water that's been used through the desal process, put in some of these pipelines and shipped up to, you know, Central and West Texas where they don't have the water, or even further, some places that don't have water. I know if San Antonio continues to grow, it puts a lot of pressure on the Edwards Aquifer. And
it does.
And so it's, I think you're going to see, as a matter of fact, one of the discussions back in the early days when we got the permits was that at that time Exxon, in fact, had a pipeline that ran up close to Lake Texana, and there was some, at least in the discussion stages of possibilities, would it be possible to go in and buy that or lease that pipeline, because they weren't using it at the time, as opposed to transporting oil to transporting water. So I mean, that discussion has been taken. So there's no, I don't think there's any hesitation or fear of putting water in a pipeline and shipping it wherever it needs to go if we've got the supply. And I think the technology and the economy and the economics are coming close enough together that at some point, hopefully in my lifetime, I don't know whether it will be, but that we've got a vast supply if we can just make it drinkable.
Well, 30 years of service plus, city council, then county commissioners court. You are one of the county commissioners who's had 7 or 8 years experience in the past, now going on 4 here. So it's over a decade again now in county commissioners court. Let's switch gears. What exactly is your role as county commissioner, and what area do you cover in precinct 4?
Well, basically, on general terms, if you can kind of visualize a map of Corpus Christi, or Everhart Road is the basic, I guess, side of the precinct, and then you go from Everhart Road out toward Flower Bluff, take in the island, and then it goes all the way down the island over to Port Aransas, and then on the other side it goes out toward the London community and some of the Chapman Ranch.
That's a big area.
It's geographically it's a big area. Plus, it includes all of Corpus Christi Bay, but there's not many voters actually in the bay. But all the fish are in my precinct.
Yeah, all right.
But if you look at it in terms of the square miles, it's huge. But and it's also the most populous. I've got the fewest number of voting precincts in my Commissioner Precinct number 4 versus the others. That seems to be the growth boom of Corpus Christi, where it's going out around Staples and Everhart and Yorktown and Cimarron and all out in there. There's a lot of development, a lot of folks moving in, and so I have the fewest number of actual voting precincts because there's such a concentration of people living there, and you've got to have the 4 commissioner precincts basically, mathematically, numerically on a 25%, so you have equal distribution of the precincts. So I've got the fewest voting number of voting precincts in my district.
So it's going to be a tight race. Whenever you have a primary coming up, it's
Right.
a tight race. Before we jump into the politics, what do you believe are the pressing issues for whether you're Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, Independent? What are the pressing issues in your precinct that you fight for?
Well, one of the major ones that we're fighting for, not with, but we're fighting with, or alongside, I should say, Todd Hunter in the issue of windstorm coverage.
Theo Todd, our good friend. What's going on with windstorm?
Well, the way the windstorm pool is set up is that they've got a separate body that issues insurance for the Texas coastal counties, and most insurance usually they base their rates that spread out all over their territories, or the state of Texas in this particular case. But right now they're trying to make everybody along the Texas coast pay a different rate than somebody in Dallas or Houston or Lubbock or somewhere else. And we're just trying to get some fairness, because it appears, according to Todd and the others, that really the coast is being discriminated against, because while we live on the coast, and hurricanes do come, when you have a huge hailstorm and tornadoes like they've had up in north central Texas in the last couple of years, there's as much or more damage up there than there is as a result of a hurricane.
And we have to pay for that too.
And that's part of our rate goes into paying for that, but part of their rate doesn't go into paying for the hurricane damage. So that's why Todd and them are saying, we're not wanting any special favors. We're just wanting to be treated equal like everybody else in the state. And that's the big fight with the people with the Texas windstorm. But he and Greg Smith and Charlie Zahn have been kind of leading that fight, and they almost got kind of equity or fairness in the last session of the legislature, but it fell a little short. But they're continuing to press the issue, and of course it's important to my precinct, because we're right there we got the island, Flower Bluff, and the area that's closest to the water. So that's a major issue for us. The other issue that's again, we're working with the state and the Texas Department of Transportation, is that with Schlitterbahn coming, Precinct 4 is an exciting precinct.
It is.
I call it the fun precinct. I mean, you got the beach, and tourists come to Corpus Christi, they want to go to the beach. So there's a lot of activity, but it also presents some opportunities and challenges. And one of the big issues and challenges that we have now that we're going to have to address, we got Schlitterbahn coming pretty soon, very far along in their construction. But the road between Park Road 22, which is Padre Island Drive, and then it turns into Park Road 22.
It can be congested.
And the 361 that gets you over to Port Aransas, that intersection is highly congested, and on major weekends, Memorial Day, Labor Day, 4th of July, any special events we have, it really creates some traffic issues. And then the other one is with more and more people moving to the island, moving to Port Aransas, evacuation is important, and you don't want to just create a bottleneck and a choke spot there at that intersection where people are trying to get from Port Aransas and the island in case we do have a hurricane for evacuation. So that intersection has got to be looked at, and TxDOT's working on it. I don't know that we've got a solution identified yet, but at least everybody agrees that it's an issue that needs to be addressed. So we're looking at that, and again, we hope we can move forward with it. When I was on the Commissioner's Court the first time, the issue that we really fought for hard, we took the lead on it, was the elevation of the JFK Causeway and the opening of the Packery Channel.
We appreciate that. Yeah, that was a big issue.
Well, we realized that, you know, the JFK needed to be elevated because, I mean, even when you get a good norther or a thunderstorm in a tropical depression, not even a hurricane, and you get some high tides and that it pushes that water up. Back then, JFK would get water over it, and we knew that we needed to get that elevated, and so the county took the bull by the horns, started pushing the elevation project and also the opening of the Packery Channel project. We got it up on the top of everybody's radar screen, and then by working together with the city and the state and TxDOT, the county put up $4 million, the city put up $4 million, the MPO, Metropolitan Planning Organization, that identifies traffic issues, put up $4 million, I believe, and then the state put up the rest, and we got the JFK Causeway elevated. And then again, and that's been a tremendous asset to us. Because now we don't have the fear, or at least we bought more time to get people evacuated. It's not, so that's solved that problem. The other one was the fact that we got a Packery Channel opened, which provided a lot of new freshwater inflow into the Laguna Madre, which was kind of getting a little stagnant. There wasn't any real circulation through there. And if you've seen the sizes and the catches of fish in the last several years, I think you'll see that really proved beneficial. There's lots of big redfish and lots of big trout being caught.
So you've got all the fishermen vote too.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope maybe. Yeah, I hope so.
Well, let me tell you, you've got an opponent in a primary, which is always very tough.
Right.
In the last couple of minutes we got left, I want to give you the opportunity to block walk South Shores. I want you to give you the opportunity to block walk the island. Everybody watches us out there too, and we thank all the conservatives who watch us also loyally for the last 10 years. What would you like to tell them? Why should they vote for you instead of your opponent?
Well, I think if you look at the record of what we've been able to accomplish as county commissioner, and as opposed to the rhetoric that you hear in a political campaign, I think, I have absolute pride in my record, and I think the people want that. We have been able to reduce the tax rate. The 3 years that I've been on the Commissioner's Court, we've got the lowest tax rate now in 20 years. Judge Neal is, I think, doing a good job in the fiscal responsibility portions that we're responsible for. We've addressed the issues. We're scandal-free. There's nobody's creating any issues down there. We're addressing the needs of the courts. We're trying to be as efficient as we can. Like I said, we've lowered the tax rate. We don't have a thing to do with the assessments. That's a whole different ball game. But in the campaign, there's probably going to be some rhetoric about trying to confuse the voters on the taxes and who's raised them and who hasn't. But the fact of the matter is that, and the record will show, we've lowered the tax rate, which in effect lowers the effective tax rate, and we're moving forward. We're hoping we can continue to do that. The Eagle Ford Shale has really been good to South Texas, Nueces County, with a lot of activity coming directly and then indirectly into Nueces County because of the refining capacities that we have with the oil. And it's just an exciting time. And I think they've really got a choice between someone that's got a proven track record of trying to provide smaller government, greater opportunities for people, trying to keep. I'm a small businessman in addition to being a county commissioner, and the less government I have involvement in my business, the better off I like it. And we don't want to intrude any more than we have to, but at the same time, we've got an obligation by law to do what the state and the federal government require us to do, and that's statutorily we've got to meet those obligations, and we're doing it as economically as we can, and I'd like to continue to do that.
Well, your opponent has been a councilman and a judge,
right?
And do you have any idea why he would want to switch gears from being a judge in a juvenile court to becoming a county commissioner?
You know, that's a good question, because you're an attorney, and I would think that someone whose goal is to be an attorney, I mean, I'm not one, so I don't know, but I would think that if you're going to be an attorney, then the next level in terms of practicing your craft is to be a judge, and that's quite an honor to have, and why, he's decided he doesn't want to, I don't know what his motive is to run. I was surprised, when he got into the office. He ran back in 2010 that it was the best office in the world, that he really felt a calling, I guess a divine calling to be that, and I understand divine callings. Like I said, I'm active in my church, teach Sunday school. But I mean, 6 months within the time he got in office, he was applying for a job. Nelva was appointed to the federal bench, and her job opened up, and then my opponent applied for that job, and the governor didn't select him. And then later on, under the tragic circumstances of Tom Greenwell's situation, the job opened up again, and again my opponent applied for that job and got passed over the second time by the governor. And then he sent an email out in January of 2013, which was with 24 months left on the current term that he ran for the best job in the county, that he wasn't going to seek re-election. So for a job that had a 4-year term, 6 months into it, he starts looking for a job. 24 months before it's over, he announces he's not going to run. I was really kind of baffled that he was going to run for this. I think he could have gotten re-elected to that judge's office. I'm not sure. I did see the bar poll results, and that may have been one of the reasons that he decided to get out. I don't know, but I'm a little puzzled as to why he's running. He hasn't offered anything that he thinks he can do better, but I think my record shows we've done what I think is a good job. We've lowered the tax rate. We've provided services. Complaints are down at the county. In terms of the services, I think we've tried to focus on being more customer oriented in terms of the way people get there and have access, and we restructured the parking situation, identifying them where the employees park, where the public parks. And so I'm confident we're going to win, and we're certainly working hard to do that, and I would ask everybody to vote for me for re-election. It's a job that I enjoy. I'm not looking to move on to something else. I will complete my term, and I'll stay there and complete the next one.
Well said, and that's Joe McComb, a proven conservative. Ladies and gentlemen out there who are going to the Republican primary or want to cross over, which happens a lot nowadays, he's asking for your vote, and get involved. 888-5907 is the golden number to call, 888-5907. If you want a yard sign, get involved, campaign, or help Joe McComb remain your county commissioner, precinct 4. You've heard about his record, and we at South Texas Crossfire salute him for all his service, and especially his service to Christ, our Savior, and that's always very, very important to us. And we want to thank you for coming on, and our sister show, Hola Texas, I think is waiting for you too.
Okay.
You're just a celebrity around here now. I think, man, you got, the Latinos are loving on you.
I don't know about it being a celebrity, but I appreciate the opportunity to come on.
All right, thank you. Joe McComb.
Thank you.
All right, and we're going to take a break and be bringing on some more guests. But Joe McComb, don't forget, early voting starts there in February, actually February 18th to the 28th, and Election Day is March 1st. So get out there and vote.